Okay. Hi, welcome to the first live episode. I'm your host, Scott. With me, I've got two superstars from Unlikely Heroes Studios. I've got Laurie Foster and John Pence. You guys say hi to the people.
Hey.
Hi to the people.
Nice. I was hoping someone would do that.
Yeah.
They just launched Kickstarter for The Surgeon issue 3. It's in their most recent comic. If you've been following us in the store, we always have Unlikely Hero Studios books, and The Surgeon's been one of their more recent projects. I know you guys have a couple other things, but we'll talk about all of that. First, I just want to ask how you guys been doing in these trying times we're living in right now.
It's yeah. You got to take it a step at a time. Doing okay, considering, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about the same.
Does it say? Have you guys found the I don't see. I know in Jersey here we were very much like locked down for a couple of months. Couldn't really go anywhere, do anything. I don't know if that kind of situation helps you creative types. If you work from home already, you get to do more, make more comics or get more projects done.
Like, I love to work from home. I love to have that kind of privacy. Unfortunately, I'm locked at home with my whole family.
Yeah.
And and like my wife is the primary breadwinner. Like I write comics. She's a professor, so she's taken this office, which is where I like to work, and then I'm out at the kitchen table, and people come to get a snack, and I'm like, that's it. I had an idea, and now it's gone. Let me help you make a sandwich there, buddy.
Yeah. I know the second I start working on anything, something else comes up, and I forget everything that I've ever known in my life.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But well, let's also, since this is a live episode, if anyone is watching and has a question for Laurie, John, or I guess even me, I'm flattered, but you should definitely be asking questions to our comic creator friends here. But I'll bring them up in the chat here, and we'll see if we can answer them. But since we guys just started the Surgeon's Kickstarter, can you tell us a little bit about the Surgeon? Everyone watching should know, but just in case there's some new people.
Laurie, can you describe it from your point of view?
Oh, great. Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I can, absolutely. I'm happy to, but it's always interesting to hear other people. All right, so I'll take you off the spot.
Yeah.
You can compose yourself for a moment.
Okay, let me think.
So it's a post-apocalyptic spaghetti western, or the Kurosawa Ronin samurai story. In the role of the man with no name, we have this doctor who has she learned how to be a healer because that was her calling. But the past couple of years of apocalyptic times have made her very proficient at killing, and she has to do that to survive anyway. And so, like, what do I do? Am I a healer? Am I a killer? And so she ends up at a frontier fort that needs her as a doctor, and then things start to get more violent than you might think.
So yeah, once you know how to put a body back together, you know how to take it apart, right?
Right, exactly.
I will say, I didn't think about it till just this minute. It's a post-apocalyptic future where the hero is a doctor. Very prescient to have this comic book these times. Hopefully it's not portent of things to come.
Yeah, and the economy of these days is like, here now we think doctors are rich. She's needed, but she's trading her work for like wool socks and more suture material.
Yeah.
So nobody's rich. Everybody's just kind of scraping by.
Now, yeah, I've obviously haven't read the third issue because you just launched the Kickstarter for it. But the first issues like kind of remind me a lot more of like they got kind of like a Mad Max feel to it without the cars. Obviously.
Yeah.
But like everyone's got kind of that like punky like scavenged armor, like it's part like football armor, or just like things you see. It's a very cool aesthetic in the world you guys set up there.
Also, baby skulls, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, that I'm not aware of. Was that
Sorry.
an influence of some kind?
Yeah, that was Zach.
Okay.
So in the middle of chapter 2,
Yeah.
maybe toward the end, he had drawn somebody on a page, and he's like, "Okay, everybody, stop everything. I'm going to take this crazy big Mongo alien beast of a human being and run with him." And of course, like, yeah, please, that would be fantastic. So we have this character that we've called Farmer Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Farmer Ted was like Anthony Michael Hall's character in 16 Candles, a really skinny dweeb. Anyway, this guy is like 8 feet tall, and he has a a belt made of baby skulls. And there was another character who had a brassiere made of somebody's severed hands too. That was disturbing.
Right. In the last page of chapter 2, she's also wearing someone else's face on her face.
Yes. And
Yes.
she has other faces, like, with her, just in case, I guess.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, you might have like a fancy ball later. You got your dress up face.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No,
We sound like horrible sadistic people now.
I mean, the book's. I hesitate now to call it fun.
Oh.
But it's not super
Scott,
grisly in my opinion.
Audio's out.
What's up?
I have no audio from you.
No audio from me? Oh, I put it on mute because I was moving my mic. And I didn't want to have horrible sounds. Sorry.
You're good.
Hopefully that's, knock on wood here, that's the last technical hiccup I have on my end here.
There's no way.
Yeah.
This is a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, of course.
China's down there in the lower right. That click, like right where I'm pointing. Click there. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, it's because it would be
That's
yeah.
The way.
Yeah. Anyway, let me get back to my questions here. So, Laurie, you've been involved with Unlikely Heroes from the beginning, have you?
Just after the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. So, but almost as long as I've known the comics coming out from the studio. How did you get involved though? Because I know, like Zach was one of the big people, and was local. Like his brother's one of our regulars. That's how we got to know him. I don't want to put on blast where everyone is, but I know like everyone else is like from around.
You can blast
in other states here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really weird. They were looking for an inker. They went through. Zach told me like 15 or 20 inkers or something.
Okay.
And then they found me on DeviantArt, and they had me do a test page, and they were like, wait a second. And they said, like, it was the best they'd ever seen, and had me do more work. And then they were like, you're hired. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
That's the problem. Because I know you were always described as the brains of the operation.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I would say, so when it started, it was just Justin and Zach. And Zach's very creative, and he's very good at the writing and the drawing aspect, but like neither of them were very like business minded. Like their partnership agreement was like a napkin. You know what I mean? Like so. Yeah. I came in and kind of helped them, fix that and like grow from there.
No, I mean, even amongst friends, there's kind of always it's better if there's like a delineation of like responsibilities, so that way everyone knows what they need to do and can not have to worry about hurting each other's feelings and whatnot. But John, how did you get hooked up with these crazy gang here?
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a writer in the stable of creative talent that they have. I'm also editor for the Elsewhere series.
Mm-hmm.
Laurie and I do that together.
Yes, yeah, we have that available now.
Yeah. So I don't know if I don't think I have a position in the company other than writer of books, but I'm happy to be included.
Yeah, well, say the Kickstarter seems to be doing very well. It's always pretty. It's always pretty. They always seem to do pretty successfully.
They do. Laurie runs a tight ship. And this whole brains of the outfit stuff. I see you like trying to bite your thumbnail, but like we have a really good boss, a really good like one person company behind this, and running a Kickstarter is not easy, and it takes work, and she does it.
Oh man.
So I'm getting comments. Apparently, you guys are coming in pretty quiet.
Huh.
I don't know if there's a way we can boost your audio.
Oh, I could talk louder.
I mean, that's always an option, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can just try to talk louder.
Yeah, because I don't have a way to control your mic levels on my end.
I don't see a way of doing it in Zoom either, so.
I mean, I can just straight up mute you and make you ultra quiet. Well, yeah, we'll just try to.
People can just guess. They can just guess what we're saying. It'll be fun.
I'll write up a transcript and just subtitle everyone after the fact. But yeah, so how did you guys get into working on comics? I assume you grew up, as fans of various books.
That's a safe assumption, dude. Yes.
Yeah. Let's say like how did you get your start? Was it just like I've decided I'm going to start writing books and maybe I'll find an artist along the way?
Literally, yes.
Okay.
And that there's this whole like, what advice would you give to up and coming creators? And that's it. It's like, stop taking no for an answer and just make the things happen. So it definitely helps to have a little bit of cash on hand to do that. But yeah, so I like in the 2000s, I was doing more like literary fiction, and I was running a literary zine. In the middle 2000s, I was trying to get a screenplay produced, and making a movie is measured in millions, right? There's no way that you can have a budget that's measured in thousands. And then like comic books are a whole order of magnitude cheaper to make.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I like comics better anyway because that's what I read all the time. So that that was kind of it. I stumbled into it, and any comics writer you talk to is going to have like probably 5 or 6 scripts written for every one that's in print. So like The Surgeon is probably the 4th thing that I wrote.
Okay. Let's see, and then Laurie, I assume it's probably similar origin for you, just from the art side.
Yeah, I was really into comics when I was a kid. Spider-Man, Carnage were big ones for me. But yeah, I just hit a point, like I was doing illustration and graphic design, and then I was like, I should just try to do some comic inking, and I just, downloaded pencils and started working on inking and just kept putting up my work, and then eventually got hired. Like basically just kept pushing at it.
Say any reason, anything that drew you to inking rather than like penciling or your own stuff?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, that is a good question.
I will say, like, I tried to be an artist for a while, and I preferred inking to penciling. I just felt that it was more fun to play with different shadows and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's just something about line work and making it dynamic and making it crazy and shading and that I just like better, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting, like the different personality types that go into making a comic. You have the writer and the penciler and the inker and the colorist and the letterer, and all of them are different, like stereotypes. If you think, oh, that guy's that's an anchor for you, or that's a writer for you. They all have different skills and different mindsets, and like inking would be, That would be like sitting down and doing my taxes to me. So I'm so glad that we have people who are excited about that, and it's their skill set.
Say in talking to a few people that make comics, is I now know quite a few indie creators. Some people I went to high school with, now I sell their comic books in our store. But it always kind of strikes me more like getting the people together to put together comic books, kind of like putting a band together. Like your penciler's kind of your like lead guitarist, your writer's like your songwriter. I say inker's like your bassist, where they're like very important but kind of underappreciated, or like not super. They don't dominate the sound. And then I guess like your I don't know who would be the drummer in that situation. I guess color.
I think an inker could also be analogous to a drummer.
Yeah.
Because it's it's holding it down. But bassists do that too. I don't know.
But that's something I was a metaphor I was thinking about recently. It's like, oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Feel free to use
that
it
is cool.
if you need to. If you
Thanks.
need that
Totally.
for some reason.
I steal other people's intellectual property all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, you both mentioned, you read comics growing up. Laurie, you and I probably read some of the same books, since you mentioned Spider-Man and Carnage. So I assume you were reading a bunch of Spider-Man in the '90s. But what was some of the biggest influences on your work creatively, either from a storytelling perspective or just how you think about like panel layouts or anything like that?
Todd McFarlane, obviously. And I was also talking about this with someone, Scott Williams, who inked over Jim Lee.
Oh yeah, so he still inks Jim Lee.
Yeah. It's just insane. Like it's just that skill of being able to make someone's pencils better, like that. Like it's so cool.
I was talking about that earlier today, like, inking, I know what I like when I see it, but I can't describe to you why.
I mean, that's a description of art, right?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I guess you gotta, like, find your, like, Lennon to your McCartney when you're pencil and inker combination, because I know, like they were saying, like, Zach went through a whole bunch of people, like, you gotta find the person, like, you guys' styles fit each other, because if you get the wrong inker, it can like really drown out your pencils, or maybe there's your styles just don't mesh. That's why you see like Scott Williams has been inking Jim Lee basically forever.
Yeah, and if you look at like other people trying to ink Jim Lee, like most people can't, because they don't really know what he wants to do. Like Scott Williams is basically reading his mind at this point when he inks his pencils. Like it's crazy.
Well, like how many thousands of comics have they worked on by now? I hope they have that.
Yeah, like you'll see Jim Lee's pencils and there's just like scribbly shit, and then Scott Williams, like all of a sudden there's like water with like waves and foam, and you're like, it was just like crust, like, and it's anyway. But yeah, I think it's important for me as an inker. I like to have a really flexible style. I don't have a style that I'm locked into, because I think that hinders the relationship. Like you said, like you can't really work with a lot of pencilers if you just have one style of inking, because like it just might not mesh with them. So I like changing up my style. That's my personal thing.
Yeah. And like I remember when we started working together, and like I said, I don't really know how to be constructively critical about inking, and I was like, I don't know, can you just like lighten it up a little bit? And you're like, oh yeah, here, boop, 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 and there it was. It was like, oh, yes, that's exactly what I was talking about.
I say, Katie in our chat has a question for you guys here. Is it unusual for a comic artist to do both the drawing and the inking? I guess it depends on the person. I don't think it's that wild. I know a lot of, at least in like the big companies, indie, you get a little bit more flexibility with your time. They're on such tight deadlines that basically you can only like crank out the pencils and you have to move them on because you got to work on the next issue.
Right. You'll see a lot of companies try to save money by having the same person pencil and ink it too, because it can save money. But in terms of time, you're right. It's generally more efficient if you have a penciler and inker that are separate, because they can work basically at the same time and do the work twice as quickly.
But like Surgeon number 3, we've got an artist who does type digital pencils, which are kind of inks, and we just send them straight to the colorist the way they came.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I know there's a whole different world between like doing your art digitally versus like actual still using pen and paper. Um, I will say one of the cool things about doing digital art is it's really easy to share your work with, like, say your inker or your colorist, because you can just send them the file completely. And
Yeah.
rather before, I know, like, back in the day, back in the analog times, like an inker or a penciler would do like a whole page on Bristol board, which is really big, and then they'd have to physically mail it to the inker.
Right. Yeah. It would really, really be a lot more efficient if everybody were in the same building too.
Yeah, and I know that's like where like the old Marvel bullpens and stuff, where they just basically like a sweatshop, like Jack Kirby drawing stuff and then moving it on.
Lots of whiteout to cover up the coffee and cigarette stains.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not knocking traditional. I like it, but yeah, like especially if you're trying to work really quickly and get everything done and everyone's spread out all over the US, like it's just easier to do it digital. I can also zoom way into a page and take care of really tiny details that you couldn't do on a piece of paper.
So
Like
it's easier to
there's
also fix your mistakes, right?
yeah,
So
that
Control Z.
and it's not like, a lot of people seem to think that digital inking is like you just press like a magic button and like shit is inked.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like I have a pen and like I have nibs and I have brushes and I have like all of that shit. It's just on a screen instead of on a piece of paper. And yeah, I have an undo button, which is really handy.
and it depends on the person's style too. Like I have a friend that I'm working on a Western project with, and I did a superhero project with him too. He does everything himself, but it doesn't have the same style. It doesn't have the same look as a traditional comic, really. It's more like more cartoony, more kind of cell shaded, because that's the art style that he's going for.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going for that like Jim Lee level of detail and craftsmanship and love, it would be unusual for that person. And I think all that just came about by the efficiency of having an assembly line. One person to do the pencils, one to do the inks, one to do the colors. You do the letters, and then
Goes right over to the printer.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have another chat question from Jackson. Have you guys ever heard of using comic book art as proof of concept for a film project? Is that even possible?
Yeah. I mean, like back in, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, the only people who had subscriptions to Heavy Metal magazine were acquisitions people at the major film studios. They weren't trying to get, they were just trying to get ideas from it. They weren't the only ones, but they were.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what is comic book art but a storyboard?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that's part of the reason we see so many comic book adaptations, not just superheroes. Because there's been a lot of comic book movies that people don't even realize are comic book movies, like Road to Perdition and History of Violence and stuff like that. Just because you already have the template for your story there. Now, obviously, you got to do a lot of other changes and stuff when you're adapting anything to another medium. But like the comic source material already has, I don't want to say a lot of the work done for you, but it's already got, you're already starting a leg up versus just, I'm adapting a novel,
And in terms of like the amounts of money that people are used to, if you talk to a comic book person with just a sliver of what Hollywood people are used to, they're going to say, yeah. And, you just bought intellectual property real cheap. And Hollywood is doing reboots. It's doing comic books. It's doing, TV shows. There's very little fresh content coming. If you want real deal stuff, it's comics.
Yeah. Something I'd like to add too, actually, a lot of the time when you sign up with a publisher, like Dark Horse or IDW or Marvel or DC or whoever, they usually want to lock in the film rights for whatever your property is, and they'll lock them in for quite
Right.
some time.
And
And
that's where
actually
their
really
money
common.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know, like, basically if you work, anything you create for Marvel and DC just about, unless you're, like, a big enough name that you can kind of set your own rules. Like, you're just creating for them and then you just own it.
Yeah.
Which is why
and they own it for a while after you're done too.
Yeah. Well, especially now that Disney owns Marvel, because Disney, I know, is really... It's funny because if they didn't fight so hard for the copyright laws and stuff, like Spider-Man would be in the public domain, and then they wouldn't have to worry about Sony having the film rights to it and having to deal with them. But because
then who
they
makes
don't
money off the Spider-Man pencil sharpener?
Yeah, because they didn't want to lose the rights to Mickey Mouse, but like it's eventually going to happen because Walt Disney's been dead for a long time.
But yeah, like if anyone out there, like at Netflix, like wants to take a look at our books, like.
So didn't they make a deal with Mark Miller? Has anything come from that yet?
I mean, Mark Miller makes deals with everybody all the time. That dude is, I don't know.
Yeah.
With the, which property was it? Do you know?
That's just this Miller World stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't. It's probably really bad that I don't remember any of the things that are in that. But it's just stuff I generally personally don't read. I mean, whatever. I like creator-owned stuff blowing up. I think the internet's kind of been good for getting to know the creators of books a little bit more. It's like, for example, a guy who works in a comic book store can do this and introduce the actual comic creators to the people that will read the comic.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I would say, before, back in the day when I was a kid, it would just be like, maybe you got the letters pages in the back, but like nobody paid attention to that,
Oh, I read every word.
Oh, I never read that stuff. I used to not. I mean, they still do some. Like, there's still Turtle Tracks and Ninja Turtles and stuff, I think. But it's fun. Like, occasionally a customer comes in and points out, like, hey, they printed my letter. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, I can just tweet at them now if I want. But that's one of the cool things about having such an interconnected world now.
I remember Indiana Jones #2 came out. And he had this whip in motion around his head, and it came around out to here. And then in Indiana Jones #3, there were all these nerds in the letters fired up about how physically impossible that cover shot was. And they were like, there's no way a whip could be in motion in that position, and here's why. And then somebody would reply to that for the next couple of months. It was fantastic. And it was like this 3 or 4 month long version of what's happening on Facebook, any post that ever gets posted. And I remember I was like, 10 or 12 years old, and these guys are dedicated. I love that that energy and fire that they were having.
So you got another comment in the chat. Sorry, Jackson, I guess I didn't understand your question. He was asking if people produce a comic book from scratch for the exclusive purpose of using it as a concept vehicle. Instead of writing original screenplay, make a comic book. Is this done in the industry? I think with the amount of work you would do for that, you might as well just publish the comic book too.
Yeah, a lot of people look at comics as a script pitch. That the first book, the first series I put out, they were Hollywood people. That's how they looked at it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if anyone does that specifically in the industry, but I'm sure it happens.
I think they would if it was cheaper. It's pretty expensive to produce a comic.
Yeah, it's pretty time consuming because not only do you still have to write the comic, you would have to write a screenplay, but then you have to draw it or get someone else to draw it. But it's an interesting concept. Maybe if it was like you were able to do it as more of like a smaller one issue kind of thing, you're able to get it more across. I do know, we're not really movie industry people, but I do know sometimes if you have a pitch, like you can have a bunch of concept art and like other things ready to go rather than just the like script stuff.
Yeah.
Most people just do that because that's something one person can do. You can just kind of sit at the computer and bang it out.
Yeah.
But like I said, with the amount of work that would go into that, you might as well just publish the comic, and then you can start building up a fan base as well. And that probably goes more for selling your comic. Like you'd be like, I already have, like 20,000 copies sold or something like that. Then you see like, well, there is a fan base for this.
Yeah. Yeah. So plenty of people do that, and I've, as a writer, I've run across people who have a script and they're like, I'm basically just going to turn this screenplay into a comic book by adding pages. People do it. It kind of offends me because, they're different art forms. One is, I mean, how long does it take you to read a 22-page comic book? It takes about 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Well, it depends if Bendis writing it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because that takes me like 2 hours.
And depends on how deep you get into the art, whatever. But a movie is hour and a half, 2 hours. Movie has to have its acts, its 3 acts. Comic book kind of works best if it's got a cliffhanger at the end.
Yeah, comics. Yeah, it was one of my rules for buying comics personally. One of my main rules is like if I still get the book if I'm interested in reading the next issue.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the benefits of comic books because it's really, really long form storytelling, especially if you're like, that like, say you get Spider-Man and they give you like, well, we're going to give you like 50 issues to work on. Sometimes you just do like fill-in stuff, in which case you just need to, have 1 or 2 issues to tell your 3-act story. But like you can have, it's kind of like a TV show in a way where you can have character growth like over like 40, 50, 100 issues. Whereas a movie kind of, to do it in a satisfying way, you said you have the 3-act structure. You have to think about your story in different ways. But one of the interesting things to do, like, say someone has a script they're really passionate about and it's just not getting made. Yeah, you could just readapt it and make it into a comic book, and that's kind of an easier way to get it out. Because you can self-publish. You guys, the story of Unlikely Heroes is you guys wanted to make a comic book, so you did, right? So it is possible.
Yeah, I mean that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's
which is crazy because the actual issue of Ninja Turtles was just a joke. Their big thing was supposed to be the Fugitoid, and then they just doodled a Ninja Turtle like, this is funny. Let's just make it a parody of Daredevil because that was what they were reading.
Right.
And it just blew up, and now it's like almost 40 years later, and we're still talking about it. That's actually what the next episode of this podcast is going to be about. We're going to be talking about the IDW series.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, we're still, like it's just funny. And then like the success of that, then, oh my God, in the 80s, just the indie self-creator boom, just that happened.
And that's when I was reading a lot of comics, and that was really formative for me, is to just see like all this black and white stuff on really shitty paper coming out of Canada. And it was not on the spinner rack. It was like, wait, what is they're calling their company Aardvark Vanaheim? What does that even mean? And then that whole 80s indie black and white stuff was mind-blowing for me.
Well, I know Turtles, they called their company Mirage because they didn't really have a studio. It was just their kitchen table.
Yeah.
So it was like the illusion of the studio. I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and their stories. One of the more fascinating things, one of my more fascinating comic industry stories. I think, not that you guys don't have a great one as well, but just like in terms of like immediate success that they weren't expecting. Because I know they just Xeroxed it on like newspaper and then just sold it at a con and then just sold out. And they're like, well, I guess we'll make more. But yeah, I mean, I can talk Ninja Turtles all day. We should talk some more of the Surgeon. So what can we expect in issue number 3 here? For the, where's the story going? We obviously don't want to give away too much.
Right. I put some thought into this, like how to not give chapters 1 and 2 away. All right, so Doc Hanover ends up at a fort that needs her to stay for being a doctor, and she kind of gets suckered into a deal because she's a good fighter to kind of train the militia in like close quarters combat. They were okay with rifles, but they didn't know how to punch and use a blade as well as they could. And then, like, when she's ready to go, when she has kind of done her job, bunch of lunatics come and besiege the fort. So that's like where issue 2 stopped, was in the worst part of that siege. And so what can you expect in chapter 3? Well, the siege will be concluded, and then the next thing will happen.
Oh no. Yeah, no, it's hard to talk about an issue without just explicitly giving it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, that's what the solicits are. I have to read every single one of them for every book that comes out.
Yeah.
So
there may or may not be a battle with Farmer Ted.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, kind of obviously, like, he's
right.
He's the boss fight. He's the top of the second act boss fight. Yes, there will be one.
Yeah. So obviously the Kickstarter is live for issue 3 right now. So what are some of the cool stuff you can get for backing it? Like, I know obviously that you can get the other issues of Surgeon. You can get obviously Surgeon number 3. Is kind of the main one people probably want to get.
Yeah. We're also giving away art prints. We have a really cool enamel pin of Farmer Ted, Baby Skull Man, except it's really cute. It's a cute enamel pin. It's somehow of a man with a belt of baby skulls.
You can take it home to your mother, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's very it's like in neon colors. It's really stylish. And we're also actually doing a really cool, and I'm so excited about it, an antique surgeon coin, like a real coin.
Well, it's real in that it physically exists. Yeah.
Yes.
It is a real coin. You can't use it at the store.
Mm-hmm.
And
probably.
I don't think it's made of pure silver.
I don't think so.
I don't think you guys are charging enough for it, if that's the case.
Right, exactly. We're also, I'd like to point out, we're selling, the words are there, original art from the Surgeon 1 and 2 by Zach Dolan. The Surgeon 2, no one's even seen those pages for sale yet, so I'm really excited. Like, if anyone's interested in buying them, basically almost all of chapter 2 is available, so...
Okay. And if you guys haven't seen Zach's art in person, it's amazing.
It really is.
We have some visual aids here.
Oh, John has one this time.
Yeah, I have one. Let's see. That's terrible. Yeah, thanks a lot, internet and digital technology. This is my favorite page. This is page 22 from chapter 1. This is why I got into writing comics, is to see something like this made.
So I have a question here from Kenneth for you guys. I've seen you've already laid out Hanover's story. How many books would you like to put out there where you would be satisfied with her story to complete her background, etc.?
Well. So I have written 6. There are 6 chapters that exist, and that's a tidy little arc. But my whole one of the influences was like the Kurosawa samurai film to spaghetti western transition. Right, that was all I ever watched as a kid. But then the other big influence was Conan the Barbarian, and Red Sonja. Like, so Conan has these stories where he's just a young buck barbarian, and he has these stories where he's King Conan. We have these stories where he's like graybeard Conan sitting on a throne, kind of barely held together. So that's what I wanted the Surgeon to be as a potential. She's been through a lot. There's a lot of backstory, so I can always go back. I do some world building. I have a lot in the past. I have a lot in the future that we can go to, and then split off to other characters too.
So in theory, you could go on forever.
That's what any comic book writer wants. like 3 of those going on at once. That's what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like you've got a plan. Like I said, 6 issues is a good. That's a trade paperback, you know.
Yeah, right.
It's good. It's good you guys got that, you know, in the hopper there. And then obviously sounds like you got tons more room to grow with her. But yeah, she does. She definitely seems like a flexible enough character where even if you're not constantly digging into her backstory and stuff, like she's done. All right, I'm done with this adventure. I can move on to the next, and it can be totally different.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
as a wanderer, that's easy to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, Laurie. What were you?
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, John is incredible in terms of, like, I mean, he's incredible, but he's an incredible writer because he can basically write on the spot, and like the story, it's not like when you watch a TV show and then like when like they get to the point where they started writing new episodes and like it like goes completely off the like
Off the deep end. Yeah.
like it's just like completely different. You're like, what the fuck just happened? And they try to like they try to like go back and make everything work. Like John doesn't do that. Like I know, like even if he doesn't have like 400 issues planned, like he could write 400 issues and the story would all make sense and it wouldn't be like sewn together at the last minute. Do you know what I mean? Am I making sense?
Thank you. Yeah,
So
like
that
not
sounds
having
like-
to retcon, right?
Right. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
that's
you
the
have to
word.
put in some legwork in the beginning, so you don't have to retcon later.
No, that sounds good. Yeah, Lost is definitely an example of something. Yeah, I was really. I also have a similar reaction to that show. Don't sweat it.
Don't. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh
I
well.
love
So
every second.
my next question was about Lost, and what did you guys think about that?
Love every second.
I
love
invested so much time into that show, Scott.
I love the first season, and then watching the second season, I was like, they have no plan. There are no answers. And I just gave up.
Oh wow, like I got way further than that. I was hanging on desperately. I was like, okay, they still have a plan. Like it's going to be a crazy plan, but it's a plan. They're going to bring this together. It's going to be a sci-fi show. It's going to be like the coolest shit we've ever seen.
Well, so
then
yeah. So my feelings on like J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot are well known to people at this point. Like we were banned from talking about Star Trek Into Darkness in the store for like a year because I was so mad about it. But like all they do, I hate the mystery box. I hate it so much. It's a marketing gimmick. It's not a storytelling convention. It's just like here's all this cool setup, and it's never had a satisfying payoff in any of their projects ever. And it's just, look at the new Star Wars movies. What was that?
Oh man, go.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so I warned you guys before we started. I warned them we'd probably go off on some tangents, which is perfectly fine. I love them.
As another tangent, if you want, I don't know how many people there are in the comments because I can't see them, but I have a pair of super socks to give away, and I have a copy of Elsewhere to give away to people who have backed. I don't know if John wants to give more trivia questions, or Scott, you have some trivia, or
yeah,
like
whatever
you guys want
to do. I mean,
so where is the chat happening? Is that on Facebook?
Say, I have a combined chat. It's on both Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at the same time. But I have a chat window that's all of it. But if you guys want, Facebook's our most active one, so if you guys want to look at that one, that would be fine.
Yeah, like look at these. Black Adam.
Super socks.
And then we got Elsewhere. Hang on. Give away a copy of this so you guys can experience it.
Yeah, say how many stories are in Elsewhere there? Because it's an anthology book.
I think we worked out to Lucky 13 on that one.
Yes, I remember it's a lot.
I think it's 13, yeah. And there's a story in here by Unlikely Hero Studios with Zach drawing about werewolves killing Nazis, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's worth the price of admission alone.
Yes.
But the other stuff's good too, don't get me wrong. But like, you kind of got me on the concept. Any kind of supernatural thing killing zombies, I'm kind of there.
Nazis.
Not zombies.
The other Z word. The other Z word.
The Nazis.
Let's kill more Nazis.
Nazis. They got me again. Well, yeah, I mean, anything killing zombies too is also cool. But
sure. Well, and that's what, like, in any video game that I get for my kids, I don't mind if they're killing zombies, Nazis, or demons, right?
Yeah.
Or robots.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want them just doing Grand Theft Auto, going around and macking people on the street. But Nazis, come on.
Yeah. Also combinations like Nazi zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fine. Yeah.
Nazi vampires, Nazi
Awesome
surfers.
There you
I'm
go.
surprised we haven't seen a movie about Nazi surfers yet.
Surf,
There's
Nazis
so
Must
much.
Die, 1974. I think.
Oh, is that a real thing?
Yeah,
Are you making that up?
I'm not.
Oh my god!
It's a Roger Corman picture.
Oh, of course it's Roger Corman. I was gonna say, my friends and I.
Don't go back telling people I said that, but I think it's true.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, like, we have like a bad B movie night, but we haven't been able to do it from quarantine. Some friends and I really want to start doing it again. But that would be a good one for that, I think.
Oh yeah.
You know, you watch things like The Room together and stuff, and it's fun.
Surf Nazis. What must they do?
Yeah.
Die.
But I saw Surf Ninjas when I was a kid. There's so many surf genre movies. But Surf Ninjas is bad. But yeah, so if you guys want to do some trivia for the giveaways?
Sure.
Let's see. I guess it should be unlikely heroes related or just anything.
Let's do a broadly unlikely heroes related. Now let
Okay.
Laurie do that one.
Oh no, damn it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you don't like to be put on the spot.
No, I can't.
Okay,
Well,
I'll do.
I can put one out there, but I might need you guys to corroborate the answers for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What year did Super #1 come out?
Do you know, Laurie?
I don't know if I know. That's the one issue that I didn't
The
ink.
reason I was trying to pass it off to you is because I'm going to go pee. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Well, I tried.
No, we can go with that. I will find it.
I'll say, yeah, my issue's in the other room. So because I would assume it's printed inside that. But that'll give people a chance to get the answer. Maybe someone's going back and looking now. But yeah, so we can talk about. Let me pull my questions back up. Well, speaking of Super, I know, Laurie, I've talked to you. One of the other projects you guys are working on, you want to do a remaster collection for is it the first volume or is it everything you guys have put out so far?
Yeah, I want to do. The plan is to do 1 to 7 issues, 1 to 7. We're also going to put the Werewolf Nazi story in there. There's also going to be like a huge memorial section for Zach in there. We're going to get art from various artists of Zach or of our stuff. And there will also be a stretch goal or some kind of something in the works of like the Super character Bible, because there's something like 100 to 150 characters and like people haven't seen probably half of them.
In regards
and I
to
think it would be really cool.
In regards to the Super question, real quick, Sarah White on Facebook said 2011. That sounds right. I would need you guys to confirm that for me.
Yeah, let me.
I was to say, we did the launch party on the store, so I can look up on our Facebook when those images were. But yeah, in regards to the Super thing, I know some of us have had, and by some of us I mean some of us at the store and some of our customers and stuff have gotten Zach art over the years, and I know we're going to try to scan them and contribute as well to that. And I want to write something up for that if I can.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
be part of that book.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if we want to get too deep into that, but like, you know, we lost Zach pretty unexpectedly last year. And I saw who's the artist on the new issue? I'm terrible with names. I'm so sorry.
The new issue of The Surgeon?
Yeah.
It's Stan Yak.
Okay. I mean, I think his art fits the style pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Zach is, like John was saying, Zach is irreplaceable. Like, it's not, you know, but Stan's doing a good job.
And that whole lot of work went into that whole process too. You know, finding somebody who could.
I was about to say, if you guys don't mind my asking, how much Zach art made it into the final book. I know some of the covers is stuff he worked on.
Oh, right, for chapter 3.
For chapter 3, yeah.
I mean, just for continuity's sake, it's all Stan. Zach has one of the covers. He had thumbnailed the pages from 1 to the end, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, I know it's kind of a bummer to bring up, but he was a big part of the creative process for all this
A
stuff.
huge part, and I mean, as much of a bummer as it is, I like talking about him, and I like the way that you know, I don't want this wound to get scarred over too soon.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say
keep it fresh.
It was crazy when we got the news because he had done an appearance in our store like the day before.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be in the store again that Saturday because it was every year we do like a birthday party for the store. So we thought we like to get some local creators and stuff and make it like kind of an event. And he was supposed to come in, but then like that Tuesday, his brother called us and was like, "Hey, I got some news," and so it was just completely taken aback. Like my story is not unique. You guys worked with him more closely than I did.
Yeah.
One great thing about Zach is whatever he was down for, whatever crazy thing we wanted to do in the store, and he always did very well because his art was so great, and still is.
I can't believe. I can't believe how well he did just like drawing in front of people. Like he could just sit there for an entire convention and draw for 10 fucking hours.
Yeah, he was like,
and it was entertaining.
Yeah,
and cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But I'm gonna call it. Sorry, real quick. That Sarah White. We'll say you want it.
Yeah, she is right. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. So when we're done here, I'll send you a private message and we'll figure out how to get some prizes to you. But yeah. So I know it's been big shoes to fill, but I'm glad to see projects continue on. I'm glad to see the comic company he helped create is still making stuff. That's the best way to kind of, that's the best like tribute and legacy an artist could really have,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're planning to, we're in the process of relettering issues 1 to 6. With Eric lettering them, just because we kind of didn't really know what we were doing for the first couple of issues, and we learned as we went. And
which is fine.
We're way better at it now. So we're relettering them. We're tweaking a couple of jokes, changing them to things that Zach actually wanted in there but didn't get in there.
Yeah.
Next year.
Uh-oh. Scott hasn't moved in a couple of seconds. I think he might be frozen.
Yeah, I thought it was my internet because it's crap, but I think it's him.
Haha.
I would give away more stuff, but I can't see the comments.
And in fact, our live video has ended, but now it's
Oh, it has. Okay.
But I think we are in a state of flux at the moment. Do we have to keep being charming and on?
Okay. John Pence is the host now.
Oh.
Yep.
There he is.
Sorry, my internet dropped for a second. Okay, I can hear you guys much louder now.
Oh, good.
All right, so let me put that back in full view so we can. Hopefully the stream didn't get dropped too much because I only went down for a second. That's why I don't normally do the podcast live. So everyone's get to see us all, warts and all here.
That's fine.
But yeah, so what were we just talking about? Oh, one of the questions. One of the questions we got in the chat. Jackson's asking if any of us ever met Stan Lee. I have not, or I did not. I
met Jim Steranko.
I've met Jim Steranko too. He's an interesting guy.
And for my money, he's the one I wanted to meet.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of cool comic creators. honestly, if I go to a big convention, New York Comic Con, all I really care about is Artist Alley. I don't really do personally. I personally don't really do back issues. I don't do the Celebrity Zoo. I don't like all the
Yeah.
stuff I could buy there. I can get from my store, and like I don't know.
Right, right.
Yes.
You know,
Stan Lee also charges quite a bit of money to meet him and
yeah, it
shake his
was
hand, if I recall, like a couple $100. So
yeah, it was. I'm sure people have met him, and he's a nice guy, or was a nice guy, but you
I
know,
use the word Excelsior frequently.
I do quote him a lot. I do use enough said.
Yeah,
Original sign off for this was face front true believers. That's one of my favorite phrases.
yeah.
Because I don't really get it, but like it's fun. It's fun to say. I can't say the guy wasn't super influential.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
yeah.
And like I said, I read every word of those letters to the editor and letters from the editor in the old comics too, and all the X-ray specs ads and all the Charles Atlas body ads. But
I say that is a cool thing that they're doing. They're doing facsimile editions of old comics where they reprint it's not just reprinted the comic, but they reprint the ads from it too. So sometimes we get some of the really weird ones, and like,
yeah,
it's amazing what used to be like ads in different eras, because you're talking about the X-ray specs one. It would just be like a newspaper sheet of like just little boxes of all these weird things you could get. And that's just all the ads were, instead of just being like a one page. Like starting into the 90s, you get like the one page like Super Sega Genesis ads, stuff like that, or even like the 2-page spreads. Like those were the big ones. But yeah, even just going through back issues in the store, sometimes it's really fun just to see the old ads in them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So let me get back my situation here now that my computer decided to work again.
In terms of meeting people, Zach did get to meet Peter Mayhew.
Peter Mayhew's cool.
At one of the last conventions he did, and he actually did a commission for him, and he was so excited about it.
No way.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what he did? Was it Chewbacca?
I have a picture of it somewhere, and I don't remember what it was. Mike Dolan might have it somewhere.
If we can get it, I'll post a picture of it up on social media.
Yeah, I'll see if we can get it. But he was like so excited, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. The coolest, I don't want to say the coolest person I met, but like the biggest name that I got the chance to like meet. Again, we're talking about Ninja Turtles. I got to meet Kevin Eastman, and I didn't expect to. So the story is, a couple of years ago, Diamond does an annual like retailer summit. In which case a lot of comic companies, it's kind of like their chance to like pitch to retailers directly. And like, I got to meet a lot of cool people doing that, like Scott Snyder and just a lot of people. But IDW didn't say that they were bringing Kevin Eastman there. And I'm a huge Ninja Turtles guy. And there was a long line because they had a big stack of comics. And for everyone that waited in line, he would sign it for free and get to meet them. So I told the other people I was with, I was like, listen, I'm going to go be in this line for an hour. So you guys go meet other people. I'm just going to go do this real fast. Like,
right.
They're like, we understand why. But that's the only time I was ever remotely I don't usually get starstruck. And I hesitate to say I was still starstruck, but I was still like, that was the person I think I was most excited. I mean, I've met a lot of really cool people. George Perez was a big one for me too, because the New Teen Titans was like my jam as a kid.
I met Steranko, and he's my hero. And he was like 5'4", but filled up the entire convention center. And I signed a copy of Surgeon One for him. He said, no, sign it on the front, right here. Mm-hmm. He told me where to sign it. He said, I'm going to read it on the plane. I know he didn't, but
that was still
nice. He made me feel like he
would. That was the one thing. As I also met Jim Steranko, he definitely made you feel like when he talked to you, you had his full attention.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
He grabbed me by the shoulder and he brought me in real close across the table. He said, "Hey man, just between you and me, you can kick everybody's ass in here." Like, where did that come from, you weirdo?
I was gonna say, when I met him, I had a carpal tunnel issue, so I had my hand in a splint, and he's like, "Hey, together we're gonna get through this." And I thought that was the funniest thing anyone could have said.
He knows what to do. He knows the rules.
But I got a big Captain America print from him. I got that framed in the other room. But he's a fun person to meet if you get a chance to meet him. That run of Nick Fury he had was so good.
God.
Oh,
I mean,
that silent
that's,
issue, yeah. Oh my God.
That's absolutely one of the most formative comics I ever read. So yeah, like Mutant Head was me kind of a hero, a god.
I was to say, who would you guys want to meet that you haven't yet? I don't want to say who you want to work with because I don't want to put anyone on the spot.
Ooh.
But I mean, you can answer it that way if you want to too.
Ooh. Who do I want to meet? Huh. I don't know. I feel like I might like to meet Frank Quitely.
Okay.
Um,
So we were talking about all the different people we might want to work with or at least meet. I don't know if you have anyone you would like to work with or meet someday, Laurie.
McFarlane. I'd love to meet him.
Okay.
He seems like a nice dude. He seems like he'd be just easy to talk to, and he'd give good advice. And yeah.
So now I know you guys are your own independently owned and run comic book company. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages to self-publishing? I guess let's start with the positive. What are the advantages of it?
Yeah, well, and let's make a distinction between self-publishing and being a publishing company that's really, really small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, advantages are you can publish a superhero book, which is virtually impossible right now unless you publish it yourself, because absolutely no one is interested in superhero properties.
Interesting.
Like they won't even look at it. They won't glance at it. They will throw it in the garbage. Some websites for submissions on the public, like they even say like, don't give us a superhero. Like we'll
in
throw it
bold
out.
print, serious.
Yeah. So that's an advantage. You can, in terms of content, you can do anything you want to. It's kind of like it's your deal. You're in charge. You're figuring stuff out. It's good in terms of you make your own deadlines, and sometimes you kind of have to. Unfortunately, you can't. John knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so like if you're working for Marvel, their deadlines are insane and they don't pay much.
Right.
We don't pay much, but the deadlines are easier.
Yeah.
And you can pretty much count on somebody upstream of you screwing up. So
yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, well, you guys get to do whatever content you want.
Exactly.
Which is creative freedom is also nice.
So,
right.
Like, I'm in a position where I'm working with a small publisher, working with Laurie. I have also self-published, and self-publishing is cool because you get to do exactly what you want. You're in control of every piece of money that comes in, but you're doing it all yourself. There's no help. There's no infrastructure. Like I worked at a publishing company before I started doing this kind of crap for myself, and there's a person whose job it is to get you publicity. There might even be a department for that. There's a department to make sure that your book is distributed to national retailers. So like every little thing you got to do yourself, or Laurie has to do for me, which I'd rather.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, even working in our comic book store, it's not the same as publishing stuff, but we kind of all need to specialize into different things. Just that way we can work on different stuff at the same time. And, some, like, for instance, Becca at the store is better at social media and stuff than me. So I just kind of defer to her to a lot of that stuff. But, we all jump in and help each other out where we can because, there's only so much. Because I assume, running this, we're similar in that we're both running small businesses. We're like, if you don't do it, it doesn't get done.
And Ben Franklin had that great, like anybody who would sacrifice a little essential liberty for temporary safety deserves neither. Um, so there's always like on one end there's liberty and on one end there's safety. And self-publishing, a lot of liberty, zero safety. And it's just finding the sweet spot in between where you want to work and who you want to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess that's some of the disadvantages there too. It's like if you don't get, it doesn't get done. It doesn't. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done. You kind of have to do your job. Yeah, you know. You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can only.
Well, I've had to kind of learn how to be an accountant and a lawyer, and because like we can't afford to hire that stuff, so
yeah.
There's a lot of like if you actually want to be a functional company and you want to get bigger and stuff, like you kind of have to do that stuff yourself or have a lot of money. So
yeah. Yeah, that's how they say you make a small how to make a small fortune in small business. Start with a large fortune.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
I believe that. Not saying it's it. Don't get me wrong. Like even what we do, like it's fun to do what you do because you don't start this stuff because just to be like, well, I need a job. You do it because you want to do it.
Right.
And then you work hard at it because you want to make it work. And you guys have been, I guess, publishing books now for almost 10 years. So you must be doing something right, you know?
Yeah.
I have a day job too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so most writers and artists I know also have a day job as well. You know, I have a day job too. I don't always podcast for I just do this for fun. I haven't even gotten to the point where it makes me money, but you know, that's something for another day. We've mentioned Dungeons and Dragons and Wizard of the Coast enough in some past episodes. I'm like, they should start paying us.
They should.
Oh, that would be great.
Or pay me or sue me, one or the other.
Whatever. No publicity is bad publicity. Yeah. So since you guys, I guess we kind of went into this a little bit earlier, but like what advice you'd have for someone interested in making their own comics? I guess the advice was just do it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's like postcard advice. You know, that's the old saw. If you're a writer, you got to realize that you have to pay people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so many writers come out thinking, you know, like I'm in a band in my garage and none of us are getting paid. Like, how come we can't just have a jam session on a comic book? Because there's a whole ton of really crappy writers out there who are trying to rope artists into hundreds of hours of work for free. So trust and that kind of stuff doesn't come easy. It helps to be able to pay people what they're worth.
Yeah. I was about to say, I know some comic book creators, well, the writer, it's my story, and then they kind of like dictate what the artist should be doing. I think the best comics come from more of a collaborative element with your between writer and artist.
All right.
You know?
Yeah, so if I'm paying you an outrageous pay rate, I get to say what goes. But if we have reached some sort of trust and middle ground, then absolutely we need to. And you know what, writers? It's not a 50-50 split, and you don't come out on top. Yeah.
Yeah, because the art's telling a story on and of itself. Like the best, I'm not just trying to diminish your work as a writer, but some of the best.
Please do. Everybody else does.
Some of the best comic book stories and like art, you can take the speech bubbles completely out of it and still tell what's happening.
Absolutely, and you know, finding that person is really, really important. Also know that the first couple of things you do are going to be good enough to get past that stage in your career, but when you look back on it, they're not going to be that great.
Oh yeah, like every aspect of life, but especially if you're any kind of artist, artist, writing's an art as well, being a storyteller, but like you should always be doing better today than you were yesterday, you know? So
Absolutely.
you should look back on your older stuff and like kind of cringe a little bit. You don't want, I mean, granted, it would be amazing. It would be amazing if, you know, your very first project was you hit it out of the park and it's like an instant classic and everyone loves it and it stands the test of time. But then like, you don't want that to be it, you know, where do you go from there?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we should all be so lucky.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. But maybe, you know, maybe you just have that one story you want to tell and you told it and like, you know, maybe you're done or whatever. But like most people I know that are interested in doing this stuff are interested in making a career out of it if they can.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, the amount of work, like ass and chair, time, figures on the keyboard that I put into a script is far less than the artists will spend on any given page. By proportion, I do a lot of work when I'm like walking around making coffee, like I'm thinking it all out and I write it all down in a notebook, but there's no way to compare what I do to the amount of detail and the amount of like craftsmanship that goes into the art, the visual art of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like writers, yeah, we get to be creators. We get to have the idea and we get to say what happens. But unless we're paying everybody every penny that they're asking for, we're not the boss.
No, yeah, it's, you know, yeah, like I said, one of the good things, I'm going to loop back to what I was talking about earlier. One of the good things about being so interconnected now is it's easier than ever to probably find a writer and an artist, you know. Because some people are like, I want to draw a comic book, but I'm not a writer. Like I can't come up, you know, I don't have a story. So, you know, maybe you need someone to help have that spark with you. I know me and my friend Kendall, who he and his wife make our local comic, Star Savior Bunny. Which is crazy because this is the thing, making comics is what we've been talking about doing since high school, which was multiple decades ago now. But I know one of the things we do is just like we'd have like a lot of brainstorming sessions and then just take notes, and then from there whoever is in quote unquote in charge would then like sit down and actually type it all out and put it together. But like, you know, I imagine there's got to be a lot of creative back and forth, but like people can do what we're doing here, hop on a webcam,
sure,
talk to each other. You can screen share and like art and draw and all that stuff together, you know.
Yeah, and I'm old enough that like I know how to do FTP, man.
Yeah.
I can put files on a piece of web property that I own and give you a link to it.
Yeah.
We've been able to do that for 20 years or so, and collaborative efforts have really taken off. I think it's great.
Yeah. So I guess the general thing is like, yeah, if you want it to get done, if there's a will, there's a way. And yeah, like I said, don't expect to be the next Stanley right off the bat.
I'm not sure if this is a logical converse, if this is like a converse statement, but conversely, for everybody with enough grit and determination to create 22 pages of comic art, there are fewer gatekeepers, right? There are fewer editors who say, that's good, this is garbage. Mm-hmm. And that you can trust, right? So that's awesome if you have an idea and you're tired of people saying no, and you can make your thing happen. You'll also find that there's a lot of bad news bears kind of scrub teams out there, mm-hmm. Filling up space. That's a terrible thing for me to say.
I get what you mean though, but like a lot of people like to view editors as the bad guys, but you get an editor you trust that like gets what you're doing. Yeah. They can take it to another level.
Yeah, and they can tell you this idea isn't good. Please come back.
Yeah, and sometimes you need that because sometimes you might be too close to your own work and you need someone else to step back. But that's another good thing for writing and whatnot, like writing in art, like the whole process. But like I'm more of a writer. I'm not really an artist, so that's more where I come from. But like you need to have somebody else look at your work, and they have to be someone you can trust to give you real opinions on it. You don't want someone just to be nice and be like, oh, it's all great, and then once it gets out there, because strangers aren't going to be nice to you about that stuff on the internet.
Your mom is, strangers are not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually dealt with a lot of issues like this as an editor. Uh, I mean, John has too, I'm sure. A lot of people think that, like, they see what we're doing and they think that it's going to happen right away, with just what they have. And like, I'll look at their script and be like, look, like, this isn't, this isn't good enough. You need to fix this. You need to do this. And they'll just kind of ignore me and then try anyway. And then yeah. So if you want to do this yourself, I would suggest, like, I mean, take advice with a grain of salt, because some people are just assholes for no reason. But like, if someone's trying to help you and tell you, like, maybe this is something you should do, or something I tell people a lot is to, like, build a fan base before crowdfunding, because a lot of people, again, they see our Kickstarters, they're like, holy shit, like $10,000, like, that's amazing, like, you made that to make your comic book. And I'm like, no, like, that took like years of building an audience and like a newsletter list and like people who want to come like, you're not going to just run a Kickstarter and make $10,000 99% of the time with nothing. Like, it's not.
Well, I was about to say, because how many successful Kickstarters have you guys run now? Like a dozen?
I think we're on our 9th. I think this is our 9th.
It seems like that's part of what makes you guys always have a successful Kickstarter, is you already have that pre-installed loyal fan base. Like, I know every time you guys do a new one, because full disclosure, I back you guys on Kickstarter.
Thank you.
Every time you guys do a new one, all of your old Kickstarters have a thing linking to it. So whenever a new one starts, I get like 40 emails now.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
It's fine. But I'm like, I don't need this. I know these guys. Like, they tell me when stuff's coming out. But
it's just that there's different backers on each one. I know.
Yeah.
I feel terrible every time. Like, I send one to each Kickstarter, like, letting people know, and I'm like, I know there's people who have backed every single one who are getting like 12 emails, and I feel terrible.
It's fine. If they back all of your Kickstarters and they're still doing it, I'm sure they don't mind.
Thank you. That actually.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things I always like about your guys is you have a very, very friendly community. I mean, we have a pretty good one at the store too. So I know whenever people would come in, like, oh, when's the next issue of Super? When's the next issue of whatever? So that's always gratifying to see. Like, especially when because we do have we do have many local comics, and some of them do have multiple issues going on. So people do subscribe to them. Like, I can set you guys up as a pull box, like we do for any Marvel or DC book. So like, someone could subscribe to Batman and the Surgeon, and we have people that do. So whenever, but they'll occasionally ask me, like, when's the next issue? When's the next issue? I'm like, well, it's when they make it. I can't tell you when.
Yeah, these guys are indies.
But most people are pretty understanding, because like I said, Zach was always at the store, so people got a pretty good idea, like, because he would chat with people and whatnot, of how long it would take. And that's one, like I said, that's one of the challenges of being so indie. I know we use indie as kind of a broad term in store. It essentially just means everything that's not Marvel and not DC.
Right.
But that's just because I need to put some title on that part of the wall.
Yeah, sure.
Because there's not enough Image or Dark Horse books to like make their own full part. But I do have local comics, which has their own permanent section, which I have you guys come into, and then your guys' stuff doesn't get buried. We originally also put your stuff up on that wall too with the indie things, but it didn't. It's just you become like one thing amongst like dozens. This keeps you a little bit more focused, because we love our local comic creators, and we love supporting people that are making comics because this is what you want to do and you want it to be successful.
Yeah,
it's not just you guys, it's everyone in our section.
And that whole question of like how it ends up in the store too, like, outside of a Kickstarter arrangement, it doesn't end up in the store unless we take it there.
Yeah.
And then when we take it there and we develop the relationship with the store, and they start displaying it the right way so that it sells, and people start asking questions. The local shops are, where the virus spreads. I don't mean that in the bad way. I mean that in the good way.
Yeah, timing on that one. We do
I realized
people,
it as I was saying it.
we
I was
do
like,
require
"Ooh,
people
that's
to wear.
good."
We are requiring people to wear masks, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But no, like we get a lot of cold calls and emails from various comic creators, and sometimes they're not a good fit. And more often than not, though, I do want to carry their stuff. It's just you've got to find the right balance of stuff. I want to carry more than we are able to, but without getting into too much full disclosure here, we get a lot of people sending.
I'm sure. Well, just like we were saying, there's nothing standing in the way of you making the comic book that you want to make.
And that's great. Yeah, I think but like I said, I do want to. I want to have events and stuff. One of the things I've been wanting to do for forever is have kind of our free comic book day event. Because you guys haven't been to them, but we basically put on a huge Comic-Con throughout our mall where we have thousands of people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a big deal. We had to cancel it this year because of COVID. I want to do a local artist one so bad, in the summer, but now who knows when we can start doing stuff like that now,
Right.
One day.
Yeah, that's one thing I've wanted to do for a really long time is be invite everyone that's has a comic. I don't care if it's just something you Xeroxed at the library. I want to have everyone have a chance to come out, meet potential fans, talk to each other, have a real big fun event about it. And then have some of our more established people, off the top of my head, I can think of Alton Simpson would probably be a good one. He writes the Vampires of New Jersey book. I know he's about to start launching Werewolves of Brooklyn, the spinoff. There's tons that I'm forgetting. Like I said earlier in the stream, I'm really bad with names. But I would have Richard Zach's one of our guys. My friends Kendall and Kayla, they're married, so they just work on it together at home. But I know they do their comic originally as it comes out as a web comic first. They have their own self-imposed deadline. They have to have a page up every week, and I don't think they've missed it yet, or if they've explained people hey, we're going on vacation, we're not going to have one this week, stuff like that. But they try to have an original mini comic every time they come out to one of our shows. Yeah, so I would love to have an event like that. But like I said, who knows when that can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do some sort of streaming online thing. Usually when we do the really big ones, I'm not the one streaming it. So my internet is really bad, it's usually Becca who does it. We did Free Comic Book Day Online earlier this year, where we kind of did a bunch of pre-recorded videos, and then we would host them in between and do giveaways and fun stuff. But I don't know about you guys, but it's starting to get kind of late here. So I don't know if we want to start getting to this stage where we want to wrap it up. If there's anything else you guys want to go over that we haven't hit yet.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll obviously link to the Kickstarter in the description for this.
Thank you.
But where, social media wise, how can people find you?
Facebook is just Unlikely Heroes Studios. Twitter's at UH Studios. Instagram is UH Studios Official.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's LAF Inker on Twitter and LAF Model on Instagram. Just Laurie Foster on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find.
So there are a couple of John Pences on Facebook. I think I'm number 7. But on Facebook, that's sandwiches and workout stuff and comics and a bunch of other shit. Instagram is more professional, but you're still going to get pictures of my dogs and my chickens. But there I'm Bubba Sattva, a bodhisattva is the BUBBASATTVA. That's me. I have a Twitter too, but I hate it because Twitter.
Yeah, it seems like nothing good comes from Twitter. I mean,
nothing good comes from Twitter.
It's not my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, the store has all that stuff too. If you're watching this, you've found some of it. But we have a Twitter.
Just follow the links.
Yeah, I'll try to post some links for you guys in the description for this as well. But yeah, definitely go check out the Kickstarter. Maybe by the time you got there, we've unlocked some stretch goals.
That would be dope because there are more coming than is what is shown on the thing. Like we wrote some down, but there are more.
Okay.
They're surprises.
I hope we hit all of them, especially because I backed it, which means I get all of that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining me so much for our first live episode of Level Up and Friends. You guys also sort of got the first episode where the new name, it used to be the New Level Up Entertainment Podcast, since we used to have an old one, and I couldn't come up with a better name than that until now. This one's a little bit more accurate, but if I'll try to figure out more to get around some of these technical issues in the future, and I'll do more live episodes. And maybe I'll have you guys on a normal one sometime. We'll talk about some other kinds of comics or something else or whatever anyone's interested in. The podcast is more or less just like, here's what I feel like talking about this week. Here are people I want to talk about it with.
Anytime, buddy. Thanks for having us. And thanks to everybody who listened and watched for giving a shit about the indies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone who watched and commented and asked some questions. That was fun, and hopefully we can do some more of that again in the future. I really enjoyed talking with you guys and doing this show for everybody, essentially. But I guess with that, I'll see you guys next time. Until then, stay safe.
I'll try to. You do the same.
Thank you.